Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Hey everybody, how you doing? You see my bed. So now you know where I'm broadcasting from. My good old boudoir. Anyway, this is Carla Renata, the Curvy Film Critic. How you doing? How you been? I've been great. We're going to get on into it. If this is your first time joining me, give me a big thumbs up to let me know you are here. And click that bell below for the notifications if you are on the YouTube. All right, honey. I get into what I did the week before. And before the ish hit the fan with Disney, I went to their Emmys party. There's me in all my curly hair glory doing my thing. And then the very next day, exactly at 12:01 a.m. was my birthday. It was a very bittersweet birthday because, as I've said here before, I share my birthday with my dad. We were born at the same time on the same day. So that was very bittersweet. The sweet part, the bitter part is that he wasn't here to share it with me. The sweet part is that my brother bought me this lovely tiramisu cake from Porto's Bakery. It was yummy. I still have a little bit of it left. But that was it for my week, this past week. Today, y'all, we're going to get into a bunch of things. We're going to talk about this film called Plainclothes. Oh, before I get into Plainclothes, let me talk about this. I went to the film festivals as I talked last week, and I'm going to throw some footage up from last week when I was over back at Fox LA after a hiatus of 2 weeks, talking about the film festival movies that are getting some buzz right now. So if you go to my Instagram, you'll be able to see that clip there. I'm going to put them up after I finish this broadcast today. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk a little bit about this movie I saw called Plainclothes. We're going to talk about the Charlie Sheen documentary. We're going to talk about a movie called The Man in My Basement. We're also going to be talking about this documentary called Satisfied and The Lost Bus. And last but not least, we're going to get into this film called One Battle After Another, which hits theaters this week, courtesy of Warner Brothers. All right, so let's get into Mr. Plainclothes. And I actually have an interview with one of the stars from this and the writer and the director. So, in this film, which was a Sundance Award winner, we're following the action as it builds towards New Year's Eve, where everything that this character has buried threatens to erupt. So it's set in 1990 Syracuse. It's directed by Carmen Emmy, and it follows this promising undercover officer played by Tom Blythe, beautifully played by Tom Blythe, who's assigned to lure and arrest gay men who defy orders. And what happens is he defies orders when he falls in love with a target played by Russell Covey. He loses this letter that no one was ever meant to read, and amidst the backdrop of this suffocating family party, the search for this letter unlocks memories of a past that he's tried to forget months earlier while he was doing undercover in the bathroom, which I alluded to earlier. But what I will tell you about this film is that I thought initially going into it that it was a thriller about a plainclothes police officer, and it is, but it's actually a very compelling LGBTQ story about hiding love and lust in plain sight. So without further ado, I will get right into this interview that I did with them. But before I get into that, I know I always say that. Before I get into that, let's see what the comments are doing. Hey, baby, how you doing? Good to see you here. Thanks for popping through. Brandon came through, and he said he hears there's a Zootopia 2 trailer coming. Yes, it is. And he says Zootopia 2 is easily my anticipated movie of this year, including SpongeBob 4. Let me tell you all about Fanimator 101 or Brandon. Brandon is a huge animation fan, and he's been following me since my days over at Black Hollywood Live. So whenever possible, I always try to give him some love on the animation tip because I know how much he loves them. All right, so let's get into this interview with the cast member, writer, director, producer of Plainclothes. The term protect and serve means something very different than it used to mean for officers. And yet some of them kind of abuse their authority towards civilians and whether they're plainclothes officers or not. How do you guys feel about that, being on the other side of this film? Because I know how I feel about it now that I've watched how this all plays out, and I'm like, ooh. But in addition to that, it's so, like I said, it's layered. We're dealing with one person's struggles about their authentic self, in addition to being this plainclothes officer. Yeah, it's a deep dive. It is. So let's get into it. Come on, Carmen.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot that goes on that we will never know what goes on. And this film, people are going to be like, did that actually happen? It's like, yes, it actually happened. That's what happened. There were sting operations. It's based on a true story that Carmen read about. I'm sure it is happening right now, and it will continue to happen, and nobody knows about it. But this film is about a guy who happens to be this police officer, and the way that he meets someone who changes the path that he's on is through a sting operation. So it comes from a place of, I guess, dark intentions and manipulation, but it ends up becoming something incredibly beautiful and life-altering for the people involved.
Absolutely. Well, that was a good answer.
Yeah, it's because it's your birthday.
Ah, flatterer you. All right. So in addition to that, why do you think it is so difficult for those that love us to grapple with the fact that love can look different than what society has deemed for us and conditioned for us in terms of what it looks like?
I mean, I think it's because we're all trying to fit into these molds that we think we need to be for society, and that can often distance people and make it. I think it makes it difficult for you to connect with yourself and those around you. So I think as soon as you stop like policing your feelings, I think you kind of like can open yourself up to more connection and really see others more clearly by seeing yourself more clearly, if that makes sense.
You just got to make more art. There's got to be more representation and visibility and amplification.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talking about art, but talking about politics, you need to see yourself to know you exist. And these stories need to be told to know that these people are existing, because if you're not seen, then it's easy to deny who you are. So, you know, queer cinema has to get stronger, has to be more amplified and supported and funded. And we need to tell more of these stories, and then there won't be this othering. We'll be looking at similarities rather than differences, and the only way you can really do that is through art.
Yeah, I asked that question because I've lived my whole existence being an other by virtue of my gender and my skin color. So whenever I see these types of stories, I'm always intrigued because I know what it feels like to be in those shoes from that perspective of being othered. Also, hiding in plain sight are these desires. There's these desires that my brother has in the middle. You have these, since everybody didn't talk, but we about to get to you. There's these desires that are being suppressed and hidden from your family, hidden from your friends, and almost hidden from yourself, so to speak. Have you ever felt the need to suppress feelings for someone you may have been attracted to, and how did you navigate those feelings? Because we all have been in a place at some time, queer or not, where we had some kind of feeling towards somebody and knew it was wrong and was like, oh, okay, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to deal with this.
Yeah.
You either deal with it or you don't.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's like it's human experience and human nature to have to like muddle through the confusion of repression. And we all go through repression on different scales and different levels. And you know, as an actor, you draw on your own experiences as much as you can, and you don't always have the exact experience of the character. But it's the ultimate act of empathy to play someone who's going through a certain experience, even if you haven't lived that exact experience. And I love that act of empathy. Like, it's the reason I enjoy what I do, is because I get to understand people, or try to, and when I'm doing my job right, I'm using the experiences I have had and amplifying them and looking at them and trying to figure out how I'm the same as someone instead of how I'm different to someone, which is, I think, something we're kind of missing in society at the moment. Is there's so much like amplification and focus on how we're different, and it seems increasingly that's happening again, which was for a little while. I felt like we were moving away from that, and there was a lot of hope in the world where it just seemed like, oh, we're not othering as much as we used to. We're trying to move towards seeing our similarities, and now it feels like all of a sudden we're there again, and it's exhausting for everyone, and it's depressing. And I think to Russell's point earlier, like what we do for a living, we're in a fortunate position where we can say we will try and amplify your story, because when people out there or governments or the people who are supposed to help you and make you feel like a human and a full person and a member of society aren't doing their jobs and they're making it more difficult for you, our job makes it harder for them to suppress you because like you said, it's hard to deny a person's existence, their full existence, if artists are telling stories about it. Like if we're out there putting films, music, plays, books out there about everyone, then you can't deny that they exist. Like you can't deny their experience and their existence. And so, not to get on a high horse about it, but I think like, you know, it's I've gone off your question, but I think, yeah, I think I've had the experiences of Lucas in many ways, many I haven't. But I love that Coleman trusted me to use my empathy to try and inhabit him. Yeah.
I love that. That's my time, but I want to say this before I go. Your acting was spectacular. What you could, because I see in person here that you have a lot of spirit about you. But in this film, you're very, very dark. You're very, very stealth. And you do this thing with your face where you find a way for the camera to just focus on your eyes. And as an actor myself, I know how difficult that is. And I know what kind of focus it takes to do that. And I just want to give you your props. You did that.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, honestly, that's like both of us got to just thrive in his writing and trust Coleman because his vision was so strong. So yeah, thank you though.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that the writing was great. Your acting, like bar none, for real, for real. So have
Thank
a
you.
great day, gentlemen. Thank you for giving me a slice of your time, and I'll see you
Happy
sometime
birthday.
soon.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so I actually did this interview on my birthday. I was trying not to do anything on my birthday, but I the PR company that handles this film for Magnolia Pictures has been very kind to me. So I thought I would do them a solid and go ahead and do this junket. But that literally was the only time that I did anything all day that day for obvious reasons, as I've already stated. So having said that, people, Plainclothes is in theaters only. It began showing on September 19th, which was a couple of days ago. I say check it out. It's a deep little film. It's very nuanced and it has some important things to say. All right. And again, it was a winner at the Sundance Film Festival. Next up, I talked about this film because I saw it at the Toronto International Film Festival. It is in select theaters. It has been in select theaters since September 5th on I'm sorry, it played at TIFF on September 5th, and has been in select theaters since September 19th, and it will stream on Apple TV Plus beginning on October 3rd. But it is called The Lost Bus. It is based on Paradise One Town's struggle to survive a wildfire by Lizzie Johnson, and it stars America Ferrera and Matthew McConaughey. It's directed by Paul Greengrass and produced by Jamie Lee Curtis and Jason Blum. This film was very, very stressful for me, as I told you when I talked about the Toronto International Film Festival, because we had wildfires here in LA. And in this room where I sit, if I look off this way, I remember vividly seeing big, huge, ginormous plumes of orange smoke to this side, in front of me, and behind me where I live. And I could smell the smoke very viscerally. When I saw this film, it's almost like I was transported back into that moment, and I thought I was kind of over it, but I guess I wasn't. I remember vividly getting 3 warnings to evacuate and all that means. And what it does is it really puts in perspective what's important to you. You know, throughout life, we collect a lot of stuff. We collect a lot of stuff. We collect a lot of people. And in a moment like that, you literally have to decide what is important to you. So I'll tell you what was important to me. There was a bottle of Dom Perignon that a very good friend gave me. I was not leaving without that alcohol. There was a costume rendering of me in The Lion King that Julie Taymor gave me on opening night. I wasn't leaving without that. And of course, my hard drives with all my pictures and personal things on it. But everything else, it could stay, because everything else is replaceable. Your memories and your pictures and things are not. That's why I transferred them to a drive. But if you have an opportunity to check this out in a theater right now, or if you can't go to the theater and you want to wait till it hits Apple TV Plus on October 3rd, I highly suggest you watch it. It's called The Lost Bus. And again, it stars Matthew McConaughey and America Ferrera. The Man in My Basement. This film also played at the Toronto International Film Festival. Is based on a Walter Mosley novel by the same name. And it begins streaming on Hulu on September 28th. It deals with this, it takes place in the African-American neighborhood of Sag Harbor, New York, and Charles Blakely, played by Corey Hawkins, who's pictured there. He's out of work, he's out of luck, he's on the verge of foreclosure of his ancestral home. And then comes a knock on the door from a very mysterious stranger. And he's like, who the hell is this? And it is Willem Dafoe. And Willem Dafoe brings a really strange and lucrative proposition to him involving some money around renting his dusty stand-up basement for the summer. And this will allow Blakely, Charles, to receive enough money to clear his debts. He's in debt up to his eyeballs. But once he accepts this money and leaves this guy down in the basement, he also leads himself down a really scary path that confronts his family's ghosts, locks these men in a terrifying puzzle. At the heart of this race, the source of their traumas and the root of it all. I'll get into the gist of this film afterwards, but I'm going to go ahead and play this interview for y'all from The Man in the Basement, where we talked about a few things. Take a look and a listen to this interview with Anna Diop, Corey Hawkins, and its director. What's up, fam?
What's up?
Let me tell you something. I had all kind of PTSD after watching this movie because I was like, I don't know if somebody offered me $50K, if I would be letting them in my basement. Would you? How much money would it take for you to do that? Because I know for me,
though, the $50K maybe is around.
It's interesting.
What, 100?
If it's Willem Dafoe, he can stay. But or not. But it's funny. Someone else was asking me that, and I'm like, when you get to a point where everything you have is gone, like you've experienced loss and trauma to like the extent that Charles has, and I'm not saying he's the nicest person, he's a good person, he doesn't use people or whatever, but when you get to your lowest of low, where the bread is moldy and the fish that you looking at in the sea might be the fish that you cook, but you're sitting on this ancestral home, but you don't want to sell it, for whatever reason, because you're tied to it. Over 50K, 65K sounds like you just want to rent the basement and I can close the door. Okay,
Listen, I asked that because my family had a property on a street called Westminster Place in St. Louis.
Okay.
And it was gifted to my mom, and it used to be a funeral parlor.
Oh.
And my mom was like, she didn't want to keep it because it creeped us out. I was like, why are you listening to your kids? Like, why are you listening to 2 little kids?
Right.
Like, you are an adult. Make a decision.
Make a decision. Make that financial
But that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Another thing that struck me is that Charles is dealing with such acute loneliness, and it reminded me of, there's this musical Chicago, and in Chicago there's this character named Amos Hart, and he sings the name of the song is Mr. Cellophane.
Yeah.
About being that person that everybody sees you, but they don't. And there's a scene for you where you walk into this party where everybody sees you, but you don't. As actors and directors and writers, do you sometimes feel invisible in this industry?
I think that from a very young age, and particularly I was working in Britain as a theatre director when there were so few people who looked like one hand, if you're lucky, one hand, that I made such an energy to take up space, to being hyper visible. But that is also exhausting. Like, it's actually quite exhausting work to be like, I must always be present and I must always kind of over account for myself. Yeah. And then you're like, am I just exhausted by sort of trying to defeat this problem? So it's something that I feel like I don't necessarily feel invisible, but I'm so conscious of the incredible hard work that I'm sometimes exhausting myself in doing that. And I feel like the older I get, the more I'm like, do I need to do that work? Is it okay to be just more kind of like under the, do you know what I mean? But it's something that we like have to fight with every day. Like when I go out today, how much do I want to be seen, and what does being seen mean? There are situations in which it's very dangerous for us to be seen. I don't mean that in terms of like you might literally be a physical risk, but like, you know, if I get seen and misinterpreted, that's going to be one thing today. So
but that's real, you know what I mean? That's real. You want to weigh in on this?
Yes. But you know, there's, I don't want to orient towards victimhood, so I try to remain in a space of creating, even if that's creating being seen by myself first, because that's really where it's at. You know. But yeah, short answer, yes. But that's all right.
What is your favorite Walter Mosley novel? I know this one is one, so don't even try it. Don't even try to go with this one.
Question.
you know what? You know what? I actually know, and because it's one of the more recent ones. But I really enjoyed An Awkward Black Man because I feel like that sums up so much of Walter's thing. You know, like he's always looking at a black man. Just like from a little left or a little right, do you know what I mean? And
edge,
and actually that thing about like, oh, there's like something different about him, do you know what I mean? Or he's in a slightly weird situation, but I feel like he's like holding up a black man as like a multifaceted being, and every time he's just tilting it slightly and go, what does he do if this happens to him? Or he's in this situation, or he's in California, or he's in, do you know what I mean? Like, and so yeah, I read it during the pandemic, like in the bath every night, just being like, damn,
being all deep and introspective during the pandemic. What's your favorite one?
I don't have any other ones.
Come on now.
Now you shame me.
I was trying to protect you from being outed.
That was not my intention, but that is my time. I don't want to take up anybody else's time and talking to you because I literally could ask you 5,000 more questions about
You were
this.
such a delight. Thank you.
Oh, thank
Really,
you.
really.
And I love your
Always.
shoes.
You know exactly what she was.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
You know.
Good to see you.
roll. I love Corey Hawkins. Whenever I request to speak to him, he always says yes. I love Anna Diop's work, and I believe this was the cinematic directorial debut for Nadia Latif, who is the director that was sitting in the middle there, and they were a lot of fun to talk to. Having said that, it does beg the question, how much would it take for you not only to but to have somebody give you money to stay in your basement, but you're literally kind of selling your soul at the same time? Is there enough money that would make you do that? I don't know that there is for me. There's compelling performances by Willem Dafoe, Anna Diop, and Corey Hawkins in this film. It's a very uncomfortable film, and it's rooted in ancestry and racism and a lot of issues that we are currently dealing with in today's world. So for all those reasons, it's a little uncomfortable to watch. And it's also uncomfortable to watch because Charles, played by Corey Hawkins, literally becomes a prisoner of his own mind. And there is nothing worse than that. It is called The Man in My Basement. It will be streaming on Hulu on September 28th, y'all. If you haven't already canceled your Hulu subscription, you can find somebody that got one and check it out if you're able. All right, let's talk about this Charlie Sheen documentary. Now, back in the day, I'm always talking about how I was an actor or how I am an actor. And sometimes I act on stuff and sometimes I don't. It's mostly voiceover these days. But Charlie Sheen has this documentary on Netflix. It's called AKA Charlie Sheen. And after 7 years of being sober, he's candidly discussing his rise to fame, his very, very public downfall, joined by some family and some friends who share untold stories of his journey through his stardom, his struggles, and his redemption. Now, what I want to share with you is this. Back in the day, on a little show called Anger Management, I guest starred opposite Charlie Sheen. I'm trying to pull, there it is. There's a screenshot from it. I couldn't find the actual picture because there's a picture that we took where I had put on my robe and took this picture with him. But this is like a screenshot from the scene that we did together. I had 3 scenes with Charlie, and that episode, ironically, was called A House Full of Hookers. In the course of this documentary, they talk about how literally a house full of hookers brought him down. He was one of the many clients of Madam Heidi Fleiss, who's based out here in Los Angeles. She's also one of the people that speaks out about him in this documentary. And I just think it's funny that particular episode is called House Full of Hookers and she was in the documentary. That made me laugh out loud. But what I will say is when I was working with him on Anger Management, that show was my mother's favorite show. She loved it. I asked very discreetly and privately if I could take a picture with him for my mom. And he was like, oh yeah, let's get a robe for her to put on. Cause he didn't want my mother to see me looking as voluptuously as I was looking on that TV show, even though she was going to see it when it came on TV. He didn't want to take a picture with me like that. And that speaks volumes to who he is down in his core as a human being. Charlie Sheen is very, very sweet. He's very, very kind. He's very, very thoughtful. But after watching this documentary, I feel like he's also somebody who feels like he doesn't deserve the life that he has. He's a movie star. He's an A-list movie star, or was an A-list movie star at one point. And he became so hell-bent on tearing his life up that we literally watched him free fall in real life, in true time. And it was very disturbing to watch that. Remember, he was going winning after he got fired from 2.5 Men. At any rate, why are we surprised? This literally was a man who was born dead and had to be smacked into life. That tells you everything that you want to know about him. And after watching it, I feel a little more empathy for his father, his ex-wife, Denise, his kids that have all had to endure this roller coaster drama ride that he's taken them on. And it could have literally been like one episode instead of 2 because it was a little repetitive in some spots. But it's just an old lesson that tells you that sometimes with people like this that have addictions and they're hell-bent on spiraling their life out of control, sometimes love just isn't enough for someone like that. Sometimes love just isn't enough. It's streaming on Netflix right now. You can go see it. It is called AKA Charlie Sheen. All righty. Another documentary that I'd like to speak to you about is produced by one of my old Lion King colleagues. Her name is Melissa Hayslip, and she, along with another Broadway luminary, Kelly O'Hara, and a mutual friend of ours, Leonard Joseph and Fathom Entertainment, have produced a documentary called Satisfied. It is the story of Tony winner Renee Elise Goldsberry's journey through being cast in Hamilton and her struggles with fertility and balancing being a mom while doing 8 shows a week and all that comes with it. Renee Elise Goldsberry and I, we go way back. This picture right here was taken while she was in the throes of it. This was like, I think it was either the week, it might have been the night before the Tonys or a week before the Tonys. I don't remember, but it was really close to the Tonys when we took that picture. And her and I go so far back. I met her during a workshop of a show called Abyssinia, where she played the title role. And I remember some of the people, not everyone, but some of the people in that cast, they were unmercilessly mean to her. And it is my belief that they were mean to her because she's beautiful, she's kind, she's talented, and they just wanted to break her down and bring her to her knees for whatever reason. Because people like that are bullies, that's just what they do. But I also love how in Satisfied, like I said, she was going through the throes of what was happening with her at that moment in that picture that I just showed you. But what I really love about Satisfied is that they show you the non-glamorous, stressful kind of journey that going of what it means to be in a Broadway show, from going from the auditions to the casting to the rehearsals to the tech period to the opening, all the way through the Tonys. It shows you all of that and how Hamilton became the juggernaut that it is, and how in the midst of all of that, she had parents and children and a husband who got it. Because when you have people when you are a Broadway performer and you don't have people in your life that support you, as hard as all of that can be, it can be even harder. It can be really difficult. And for her to want motherhood so badly and having at least 6 miscarriages along the way to finally have the family that she so sorely wanted. There's 2 things that she wanted. She wanted to be a performer and she wanted to be a mom, and she's been blessed to do both. I had a visceral reaction to watching this because Renee is a friend, and I know how kind and generous she is, and how if you've ever met her, there's not one person that's ever met her that doesn't feel that emanate off of her naturally. It's not an act. She's not trying to be that person. She simply is. And now she is, and pardon the pun, satisfied. So Satisfied is coming to theaters. Check it out if you have an opportunity to. It is a really heartwarming story and a great tribute to a really great friend of mine, Renee Elise, Tony winner, Renee Elise Goldsberry. All right, last but not least, let's get into this Paul Thomas Anderson movie, One Battle After Another. It hits theaters this week on September 26th. It is written, directed, and produced by Paul Thomas Anderson through Warner Brothers. It's loosely based on the Thomas Pynchon's Violin, and it's more of a spiritual riff in relation to former revolutionaries now burned out and mourning the change they didn't have a chance to make. And then this makes it a straight up film to movie adaptation. If any of what I said just made sense, it made sense to me. Anyway, I was on the Warner Brothers lot, and in a non-franchise film. This is one of the first non-franchise films Warner Brothers has done in a minute, and I saw it on the lot in VistaVision, which was kind of cool. So this is what it's about. Bob, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is a washed-up revolutionary who lives in a state of stoned paranoia, surviving off-grid with his spirited, self-reliant daughter, Willa, played by Chase Infinity. When his evil nemesis resurfaces, Colonel Stephen J. Lockjaw, played by Sean Penn, who you see there, when Willa goes missing, this former radical scrambles to find her as both father and daughter battle consequences of their past. When I tell you Sean Penn is giving the performance of his life in this movie, it is crazy how great he is in this movie. And this film, let me come back on camera for a second. This film is it's comedic, but it takes some very serious takes on subjects like racism, sexism, immigration, and the world affairs, and how crazy it is to experience life as we know it right now in all the forms that it's coming in. And again, this is a career best performance by Sean Penn, who plays this military man who's a closeted racist. And his desire for a Black woman nearly drives him insane. That Black woman would be in the form of Tiana Taylor, who plays Perfidia. She's really wonderful in this film, but as a Black woman, I have to say, there's this one scene that really, really bothered me. And I find it interesting that none of my white counterparts, when they watched the film, this bothered them, but it bothered me. There was a movie that Halle Berry won the Oscar for called Monster. And there's a scene, a very sexually graphic scene in this film that got a lot of play when that film came out. There is a scene very similar in similar vibe to that in One Battle After Another. And I think Tiana Taylor is immensely gifted and immensely talented. And I just was like, do we have to see her be do we have to see that in order to make her in order for us to care about her character? We kind of didn't. And I felt some kind of way about that. Don't feel some kind of way about her. Let me be very clear. Don't feel some kind of way about her. But I really did feel some kind of way about that scene. Having said that, the young lady that plays her daughter, Willa, is played by Chase Infinity. This is her first big film. She was in another film where she had a smaller part, but this film is a star turn for her. And the fact that she's hanging with all these award-winning actors with confidence tells you that her star power is on the rise and is speaking volumes. Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie was giving me, he looks like a morphed caricature version of Jack Nicholson to me in this movie. And no shade toward Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a fabulous actor. I'm not saying anything negative about him. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying anything negative about him. I just feel like we've seen everything that he can do. We've seen everything that he can do. And so this isn't any different than anything we've seen him do that requires intensity. It's kind of the same. But who was funny as hell was Benicio del Toro as the sensei. Honey, whoo, he had me hollering out loud, as did the rest of the audience. And the other thing that had me hollering out loud was they had this group. It was a Christmas club of sorts of racists. And they were they were trying to figure out how to take down immigrants and Black people and Asian people and Latino people as much as they possibly can. But the way that they're discussing doing this is pure comedy. And let me tell you something. Paul Thomas Anderson does something when you find a way to make racism and immigration the way we're experiencing it right now, to make that funny. That takes some skill. But yeah, it's a really long film. It's hella long. It's about 2.5 hours, I believe. It was really long, and it could have shaved off a good 45 minutes. But I enjoyed this film because it was very nuanced and it was very layered with all of these different things. And I probably need to see it again at some point to catch all of the things that are being thrown at us in this film. But it's going to be in theaters this week, like I said, on September 26th. It's written, produced, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. Regina Hall is also in this movie. I wish we had been able to see more of her, but the little bit that we did see, I'm good with it. But I stand by the fact that this film belongs to Sean Penn and Chase Infinity. They are freaking slaying it. When I come back next week, or in the next coming weeks, I'll have another interview from the morning show. This time it'll be with Jeremy Irons. I have to embargo it because there are some things that we talk about that are spoilers. So it'll probably be closer to the last episode, because unlike most of the shows on the streaming platforms that roll out all the episodes at once, the morning show rolls out an episode per week. So I have to kind of wait until his storyline has been introduced before I roll out that particular interview. But I do have an interview waiting in the wings with Jeremy Irons, and we clown in that interview. I have the cast of The Roof Man, the new Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst film. I'm going to talk about Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery, as it is coming to theaters. I'm also going to get into Hedda, as that is coming into theaters in the next couple of weeks. But to be specific, next week I'll be talking about Roofman, the Smashing Machine, Orwell 2 + 2 = 5, and the new Taylor Swift film, The Life of a Showgirl. I'll also be talking about in the coming weeks the film I told you I saw at Telluride with Colin Farrell. It's called The Ballad of Ballad of a Small Player. I'll be talking about A House of Dynamite with Idris Elba. If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Fairyland, the John Candy documentary, I Like Me. Black Phone 2, Blue Moon, the 2 Ethan Hawke films. After the Hunt with Julia Roberts and Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. In addition to Hedda, which I already mentioned, Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere with Jeremy Allen White, Begonia with Emma Stone, and The Mastermind. Those are all the films that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks that I will be talking about. I'll have the cast of a couple of other films that I can't mention right now. In the next couple of weeks, I'll have those junkets for you, in addition to Ruth Mann and Jeremy Irons from The Morning Show. So, hey, y'all, thank you so much for popping through and saying hi to a sister and watching this, whether you see it in real time or not. Again, I just want to reiterate the things that I think you should check out. Go to my Instagram to check out what I thought was great film festival buzz from the Telluride and TIFF Film Festivals, aka Charlie Sheen, is streaming on Netflix right now. The Lost Bus is coming to theaters or already in theaters. The Man in My Basement is coming to Hulu. Satisfied is coming to theaters. And on September 26th, One Battle After Another, starring Tiana Taylor, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, and Chase Infinity. So, you guys, until the next time, thank you so much for popping through. I will see you sooner than later. And yeah, love, peace, and hair grease. And I'll see you next week. Deuces.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.
Love,